Hey guys, welcome to another episode of Psychology of Spirituality. Really excited for today's episode. As you guys may or may not be aware, I am getting my PhD in psychology and I research the area of spirituality. And so I often integrate films into the work that I do and also in lots of the videos that I have created related to research, science, psychology, religion, like this one right here. I'm also a huge movie fan and I made a list of my top 10 favorite psychology and spirituality films from the last decade, 2010 to 2019, which I released last year. But today I wanted to cover, in this COVID-filled year where there's been lots of decline in movie going, lots of films have been slated to be moved to 2021 or 2022. It's been a weird year for films, but there's still been some really cool hidden gems that I think are worthwhile, and I'm going to feature those along with some honorable mentions.
And I am here in the name of the great King of Kings! The Holy Redeemer! The Man of Trinity! Because he is on the side of justice!
So I'm only covering films for this video, but I do want to give a quick shout out to The Good Lord Bird, which I just finished on Showtime. Executive produced and starring Ethan Hawke, whose portrayal of a priest in First Reformed undergoing a spiritual transformation is one of my favorite portrayals of Christianity. Similarly, the series portrays the true life of John Brown, an abolitionist and intensely religious man who fought anti-slavery with violence and with his interpretation of Christianity. I speak a lot about religion on this channel in regards to our subjective psychic realities and how we coalesce the narrative of our religion to fit with our own moral and spiritual framework, the nature of our souls. This is a really great portrayal of the dynamic and abstract ideals of Christianity through a historical lens, which has lots of relevance to today. Namely, how will humankind choose to manifest these words of God? Also, honorable mention to a few international films that don't really fit within a spiritual or psychology category, but I wanted to shout these out anyways.
Tercos. Pero sin molestar, loco.
Hello.
Is there any way that I can take your photograph just like that?
Hey, he doesn't speak English.
Boa tarde, amigos de Bacurau.
Cada um pode vir aqui pegar o mantimento que precisar, tá? Vamos usar a consciência, tá bom?
A gente tá sendo atacado.
Oh, yeah.
This world is upside down.
Só bebe água da colônia, mas não volte à minha casa, assim cheirando a caixa.
You make everyone around you feel crazy. People are normal, then they hang out with you, and then they're fucking Jack Nicholson in The Shining or something.
I gotta tell my mom you tried to drown me.
It's an above ground pool, you're like fucking 8 feet tall.
You gotta get your shit together. Time is passing by very quickly.
Why do you think I smoke weed all the time? So I can slow it down.
So, number 10. I work primarily with adolescents and older teenagers in my clinical work. I see for myself firsthand in the over 100 interactions I've had with young people doing therapy, crisis management, intakes, how this need for purpose, community, social effervescence, amidst a endless sea of meaninglessness, apathy, materialism is one of the most vital markers we will have to contend with as a population going forward. And here are some statistics on the increase of loss of purpose, with many young people unable to even understand what their core values or philosophical worldview is. Pete Davidson's King of Staten Island is a coming-of-age film for a new generation of youth who are contending with so many forces: social media, sexualization at a very early age, family pressures, community belonging, intergenerational changes, addiction in so many subversive and overt ways, and the existential narrative of what our purpose and deeper reason is for being here. The film follows Pete trying to make sense of his father's passing. For those of you who may not know, Pete's father actually died serving during 9/11. So it's autobiographical in some sense. He's finding structure, family, identity, and a deeper connection with his father. And also a shout out to Bill Burr's burgeoning acting career. I'm a huge fan of his. So here's number 9.
He said that wherever I went, he would find me, walk right up to me, and I wouldn't be able to see him.
Are you okay?
He's sitting in that chair.
Surprise.
You can't help me. Surprise.
So, The Invisible Man. This film really is about the afflictions which may heal with us physically, still endure with us mentally and psychologically. This film takes the Invisible Man concept from like the old Warner Brother monster pictures and applies it within the psychological horror genre. I love the fusion between the two because the film darts back and forth between the line. We're asking ourselves, is this figure real, or is this just the emotional mental damage her abusive boyfriend caused within her, and it's become so profound that it's crippled her sense of self, as well as the cultural ramifications of society choosing not to believe her narrative. I love when films can wrestle with these complex topics, but not lose the core tenets of what the audience wants: suspense, great action, believable character arcs. I guess we should thank Tom Cruise and The Mummy for flopping so hard, because it made the studio have to adapt and utilize a more creative aspect for these monster pictures. So that was number 9. Here's number 8.
Our next contract's a big one. The target is the CEO of the largest operation in the U.S. You'll be binding to Colin Tate. We can't afford any mistakes on this one. Sometimes that small thought is all it takes to lose control.
So a couple of years ago I read Double Feature, which is a novel by Owen King, the son of the legendary Stephen King. I was really excited to read that book, and I was surprised about how Owen managed to utilize many of the same themes as his father, with his own unique voice and character. Similarly, Possessor is a film by Brandon Cronenberg. For those of you who may not know, David Cronenberg is a notorious, legendary, one of my favorite American filmmakers, whose A Dangerous Method with Carl Jung and Sigmund Freud I've talked about extensively in this video right here. This is one of the craziest meta psychological thriller, dual identity, body horror, splatterfest films I've ever watched. It follows a program in which a corporation is sending a possessor to transplant into the consciousness of another person to carry out some means, right? So it's kind of wrestling with artificial intelligence, who we are in the 21st century. One of the most original, daring pieces of art in 2020. I also love that we're shifting back towards 80s level practical effects away from CGI. Because it's so much more realistic, visceral. I mean, it's a really sick film. And also shout out to Craig Zahler for Bone Tomahawk and Escape from Cell Block 99, which also utilizes like very gory practical effects. So number 7.
I just like the textures in my mouth. I just wanted to make you happy.
You get back here with my kid!
I did something unexpected today.
This independent film produced by IFC follows a young housewife, a standout performance by Haley Bennett, who's in a toxic relationship and who develops pica, which is a psychological disorder maintained by chewing or eating random non-edible objects. I haven't had the opportunity to work with individuals with eating disorders or with pica, but theory does suggest that a large portion of that behavior is driven by a need for autonomy. And I have talked about self-determination theory in a few different videos, which posits that a need for some sort of control is integral to our psychological and social health. So I love how this film deals with this selfless neglection. And I've also talked a lot about personality psychology and the dark side of agreeableness, right? Although we may be warm and compassionate as Haley Bennett is in this film, that also makes people more advantageous, or they're more likely to take advantage of us. So putting all other needs before herself, and we see the psychic ailments that causes.
Being back here, it is not easy.
We've been dying for this country from the very get. Now the time has come. There are things to realize.
We give this goal to our people.
So one of my favorite directors of all time, Spike Lee, whose Malcolm X I have highlighted recurrently as one of the best portrayals of Islam or religion overall in Western media and Hollywood, comes back with this Vietnam War epic on brotherhood, loyalty, family, nationalism, PTSD, the sins of our past, and the psychology we adopt to transform our narrative to match those obstacles, those sins. From Apocalypse Now, Deer Hunter, Platoon, Born on the 4th of July, the amount of great films which have come from directors trying to grasp with the existential horrors of our involvement in Vietnam since the 1970s. The Five Bloods is a look back, as there really haven't been any prominent films made about Vietnam in quite some time. Have we learned anything from this ordeal as individuals, as a country, as a world, as a collective conscious from that involvement? It is also a look towards the present, grappling with our identity as Americans in this increasingly globalized and interconnected world, this patriotic fervor which is a shared part of our national heritage, but also a means by larger institutions such as the military-industrial complex to subjugate others, which we're still doing today. Also, rest in peace to Chadwick Boseman as well, leaving behind a great legacy of films to inspire and teach us all. Hey guys, so that's going to be my part 1 of the video. Next week I'll cover my top 5. That was my number 10 to 6, as well as honorable mentions. Let me know what some of your favorite films were as well. A lot of films that I missed that I didn't get the opportunity to watch, namely Viggo Mortensen's Falling. For those of you who may not know, I'm a huge fan of Viggo Mortensen. It's his first directorial debut on his relationship with his father suffering from dementia, so I'm really excited to watch that as well. As always, I put a bunch of links in the description for you guys to expand your knowledge and your mindful journey as well. Subscribe and support, and I will see you on the next episode.